Welcome to Mike's Wrestling Road Journal, Volume 4, Return to Wetaskiwin. Now, people, especially in Alberta and Western Canada that grew up of a certain age, they all know the city of Wetaskiwin for one thing, and that was this commercial jingle.
Cars cost less than Wetaskiwin.
Dear Lord, to this day, even people on TikTok still thrown into the, but do cars really cost less there? Sure, why not? I will never remember the city of Wetaskiwin solely for the car commercials. I have carried memories of Wetaskiwin that were both very good and very, very bad. Now, I've actually had to restart this intro about 4 or 5 times now because when I start talking about the really bad, it's bad, guys. It's not good at all. I'll give you the short version. I don't think it behooves the feature to go into more details, but for a time in my life, while I was being raised by my mom, my grandma who had adopted me, Lois, who I talk about to this day, her health wasn't great, and I was sold what for me was a false bill of goods. And I'm not saying that's the way it turns out for every kid, and I'm not saying that's the way it turns out for everybody that ever gets into this, but I was sold the option of foster care. And it did not go well. And the thing is, when you're in foster homes, at least in the province of Alberta at that time, if a foster placement doesn't work out, you then get transitioned to a group home or a youth home. And these are basically stopgaps, and they're not a perfect solution by any means whatsoever. In some provinces I've lived in, to this day, they have a shortage of group homes and foster homes and youth homes. So in some places, they're putting kids in hotel rooms and they get monitored by a social worker, and then it's basically fend for yourself. Go to school, don't get in trouble. Now, that's a rare case, but it is happening out there. For me at the time, my placement from a foster home until I could get to another foster home was one of these youth homes. And one of these youth homes was in Wetaskiwin. Funny thing is, that place still exists to this day. I've heard it's undergone a lot of changes since I was there, and I hope for the good of everything that's the case. But I damn near died in one of those places. And I'm not saying this for dramatic effect, and I'm not saying this for sympathy. Like I said, I've gone into this story a few times already, and that's where I'm going to draw it, okay? That's where I'm going to stop talking about that for now. At that time in my life, this is about grade 5, grade 6, I am neck deep into loving pro wrestling. Anytime I can get my hands on any wrestling magazine, whether it's actually buying one or just getting one in the store, I'm doing it. Every Saturday when I get the chance to watch TV and watch WWF Superstars or Maple Leaf Wrestling as we got in Canada, that was what I was watching. And the funny thing for me is that through all the foster homes and all the group homes and all the youth homes and everything in between, part of the reason why I gravitated to pro wrestling is still the reason why I gravitate to pro wrestling today. And that's because no matter what, no matter how crazy my life was getting, I always knew that on Saturday morning, I could turn on the TV and I could watch pro wrestling. And that's why it's always mattered to me so much. It was the one constant I had in my life to just watch pro wrestling. Looking back now, I couldn't tell you half of what I remembered watching, but it was always there. And I'd always remember you get the recaps of the big stars, the big events, and then you'd get the, quote, enhancement matches, as we call them. To us kids, we didn't know the difference between a jobber and a superstar, other than the superstars always won. There were some kids I was going to school with there that were also wrestling fans, but for the most part, I was the weird kid. Especially when you're the kid that comes from that home. You know, you're not in a foster home. You're not in a regular home. You don't have a mom and dad there. You don't have brothers and sisters. You're the kid that lives in the group home. And when I lived in that group home, it was not good. It was not good at all. There were a lot of circumstances that happened in those places that I could have had it a lot worse, I'm sure. In fact, I know some of the kids that I lived with did. So when I say that I had a lot of weight on my mind going back to Wetaskiwin for any reason, I was not looking forward to it. In fact, I talked about it the night before we loaded up the truck and headed up there. It's late on Thursday night, which means, of course, I have to get up early Friday morning, do a wrestling show, all the way up in Wetaskiwin, which is a city I have mixed feelings for. The city itself is fine. Just certain things in my life that happened there, especially when I was very young, I've carried with me ever since. And so going back to this town tomorrow is going to be another one of those moments where it's kind of like, okay, you know what? You got to put the past behind you or whatever it is. And that's what tomorrow is going to be. I did manage to get about 5 hours sleep, roughly. It wasn't a great sleep, and then I had to get up and pack up the rest of my stuff and also load up my truck for the show we were going to be having the next day in Lethbridge. But I was meeting Kevin Farrell, who's one of the owners and part of the management team of Pure Power Wrestling, and we were set to take the wrestling ring from Pure Power Wrestling from Lethbridge all the way up to Wetaskiwin. Now, keep in mind, the ring trailer is, I want to say, 16 to 18 feet long. It carries a wrestling ring. It carries barricades. It carries a projection setup, an entrance setup, and it's got a fair bit of tug on it. Kevin Farrell, who looks strangely like Sidney Steele, but Kevin's a nice guy, and he's assured me that he'll get us there safely.
We'll see.
Even though we've already hit 2 stop signs.
We'll see.
We're going to meet up with Curtis, the referee, in a town called Fort Macleod that's about a half hour west of Lethbridge, and then we head straight north. It's a long drive. We're towing this heavy trailer. We've got the wrestling ring in the back, and we even pass by a famous wrestling landmark that I've yet to actually see in person, but I know where it is. There was a time where I was on this very highway 2A between Wetaskiwin and Red Deer a lot through my life. If you're a wrestling fan, there's a significant landmarker you've probably heard about a million times, especially if you're a Chris Jericho fan or a Lance Storm fan. Just outside of Ponoka, Alberta, there it is, right there. Orange letters, white sign. That is the Ponoka Moose Lodge that Chris Jericho has talked about wrestling Lance Storm in a million times if you're a wrestling fan. I didn't go much into it in that video, but I saw that Moose Lodge sign easily 50 times going up and down that highway. Because while I was staying in the group homes or in the foster home, I would actually hop on a Greyhound bus. They would pay for me to hop on a bus every weekend to go from Wetaskiwin back to Red Deer to visit Mom for a couple days. And then I'd go back up to the group home. And I remember I always would see that sign, usually in the dark, because that was when the bus would leave. And it was on a milk run, because to get through Wetaskiwin, you had to go through all the other towns. A place called Musquecheese now, was known as Hobbema back then. Then you hit Ponoka, Lacombe, Black Falls, and then finally Red Deer. It was not fun, but part of that trip, again, I would see that Moose Lodge sign all the time. So when I would hear Chris Jericho talk about the Ponoka Moose Lodge, it automatically triggered memories of that bus ride every single time. But let's fast forward to getting to the building, which was the Co-op Place, or to people that remember it, the Wetaskiwin Drill Hall. The Drill Hall is a building that once I stepped into, I had some instant memories as well. So we just got into the arena, which is known as Co-op Place here, and it didn't dawn on me until I literally just walked in and looked over that concession window over there. I got my first actual employed job through a hire student, and I remember I was supposed to work the concession over there, but instead I ended up manning one of the games for a charity penny arcade, and I think I was probably making like $4.75 an hour or whatever. And yeah, it was in this very building, which I'm sure has changed a lot since that time, but still probably has the exact same floor. Now, the building is big enough, we managed to back the trailer up, and the guys unloaded the ring and got that all set up. I had a pretty detailed script that I had to get out onto my cue cards. While I felt bad because I was kind of getting out of ring crew, I was prepping for the show as much as I could. Normally, it's like 6-7 cards and it's all very simple match details. But Vern May, Vance, Nevada, the guy that had promoted this show, did such a remarkable job of selling this show. And this is in an ideal world. If you're an independent wrestling promoter or even a major company, we see this all the time in AEW and especially WWE these days with TKO, they're not afraid to sell everything. Vern had special charity donation mentions that were going to happen throughout the show. Business sponsorship presentations of custom-made championship belts for the sponsors. Okay, it was a lot that was added to this thing. So I had 17 cards by the time I was done writing out the entire show. The guys got everything set up in great fashion. And all of a sudden, we find out that we already have pre-sold about 350 tickets. We're just about ready to open the doors here. And this is the setup. They're actually adding more chairs right now because the walk-up is expected to be massive. And there's already a pretty massive pre-sale. So it's going to be a pretty fun night in Wetaskiwin. According to the Alberta government website, in 2025, Wetaskiwin had a population of 13,703. 2.5% of the city of Wetaskiwin had already made plans to be a part of our show that night. A full room, a full drill hall, and we had a great show. I'm in the ring doing my thing. At the same time, I am scanning the crowd constantly. I am looking for anybody that might be a grown-up version of one of the kids I grew up with. Or even more terrifyingly, I'm looking for an older to elderly version of maybe some of those rotten people that I had to deal with growing up. Because I will tell you this has happened before. Doing radio in Edmonton, I was emceeing at a big country festival called the Big Valley Jamboree. One of the workers from that group home actually walked up to me once. And this is one of the people that lied their asses off when the investigation was going on about what happened to me. Had the nerve to walk up to me and say how proud they were of me now and to see what a great success I'd become, and oh, now we know who to bug for free concert tickets. Ha 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 ha. Oh, boy. And while that sounds horrible to say, the point I bring it up is because for that night in Wetaskiwin, I got to just be the ring announcer from the visiting wrestling show, and it was a blast. I remember getting back to the hotel room after the show, and a big thanks to the folks at the Trackside Distillery. They put on a beautiful supper for us after the show, which does not happen after every wrestling show. Sometimes you get some food, sometimes you get some water, and sometimes you might get the offer of an adult beverage, and that's your night. And that's fine. But usually it's you get your PO and you're on to the next town. So I got back to the hotel room, and I thought to myself, geez, here I am all these years later. I'm grown up. I'm okay. I'm healthy. I'm in a nice suit, and I'm doing what I love doing. It is like 12:36 a.m. now on Saturday morning after a great Friday night show in Wetaskiwin. I'm blown away. I would venture 400 to 500 in attendance in a town that shouldn't be drawing that many for pro wrestling, but just a big credit to Vance, Nevada, and the folks at Primetime Wrestling for putting together a great promotion, and just a great crowd. Really great experience here. For me, that show was about more than just ring announcing and getting stuff done. It was about finally getting a legitimately happy memory with no conditions of any kind. No caveats. No, it was great, but it was just an awesome, awesome experience in Wetaskiwin. Got up in the morning, decent little free breakfast included with everything. I will say this, When you're a diabetic and you're trying to avoid carbs in the morning, continental breakfasts are usually a struggle. This one was a struggle as well, but there were some heavy protein options there, so that's what I opted for. Met up with the guys in the lobby, and we're hopping in the ring truck because now we've got that 6-hour drive back to Lethbridge. But there's more. It's not just the drive. No. Saturday morning, back in the ring truck. As you can tell, we're all working very hard on our laptops right now. We are back on the road to Lethbridge now. I don't have to ring announce tonight, which is good. But I do have a bunch of lights and junk like that to set up. So it's rip back to that building, get the ring and the show set up, and do it all over again. Oh, and it's sold out, by the way. So I'd say, hey, get your tickets now, but ain't a ticket to get. See, on the drive, I still have things I have to do, like maintain this podcast feed. Our Saturday show, the alternate commentary table, it's done every Saturday morning by Mitch and Dimitri. They do it at the radio studio, and then they email it to me. I do a little bit of production on it, and I upload it. So that meant cab of the truck, referee Curtis driving, Kevin Farrell, the promoter in the back, working on his stuff for the show coming up in Lethbridge tonight, and me sitting there editing audio on my laptop, hotspotting my phone, which sounds pretty easy to do, but this isn't exactly Cadillac of ring trucks here. This thing's a little bumpy. There's a lot going on, but we got it done. Couple more stops along the way, of course. Got to get some more gas because this thing is a pig on gas when you're hauling that big, heavy wrestling ring. And then finally, we get back to Lethbridge. They've sold over 500 tickets to this show. No major fly-ins. A little bit of a feature with Short Sleeve Samson on the card, but for the most part, it's still just Lethbridge's pure power wrestling that's been doing it right for a long time now, and they're selling out their venue. With that, though, means we got to find more chairs. We had 150 steel chairs that are kept under a deck of somebody's house that we then had to load up after driving back from Wetaskiwin, and then we head down to the venue. Now, I am not worrying about being the ring announcer tonight. They have a guy there, Jim Dandy, who's been doing it for years, and he does a great job. I am tasked with building this entranceway, making sure everything works, programming light shows for all the wrestlers that are going to be on the card, and making sure it's ready to go and not taking up too much space because we are going to be packed tonight. So here we are, it's Saturday night, and I finished setting up this little light rig here. Stuff on the entrance as well, and then we've got a surprise for the folks. We've got over the ring lighting for the first time. They don't know that yet. But yeah, this is my little command center here. So yeah, I'll be doing this for the next few hours. We'll get ready for show number 2. Realize I made most of this lighting rig. I do this strictly as a hobby. Okay, I'm not paying for top of the line first run gear here. This isn't just pull it out of a box and throw it up and here you go. But it works. It looks cool. It gets the job done. The wrestlers look like stars, and the fans are enjoying it. But remember, this is after that drive. Everybody that did the Wetaskiwin run is tired. Guys, believe me when I tell you that when I do these shows, I hate to say this, but I don't actually get to watch much of the wrestling because I'm getting ready to program the lights for the next sequence, whatever needs to happen, and I'm waiting for cues. And honestly, I'm also getting texts and cues for what's going on next. And it's a lot more than just watching the matches once the show gets going. But the show is going great, and the fans are loving all of it. By the time the show is done, everything is gone without a hitch, and we've had a great show. Then it comes time to tear down. By the time we get out of there, it's just after 10 o'clock, maybe 11. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. But that started from 6 o'clock in the morning the one day, all the way till after midnight the first night in Wetaskiwin, 7 o'clock the next morning, all the way to 11:30 the next night. By the time we got all my gear emptied out of the truck and I got back home, yeah, it was midnight, at least. But here's the thing. These 2 nights are just an example of ways that I like to contribute to this thing I love in totally different ways. Yes, I love hosting. I love emceeing, and I love being in front of a crowd, and I love talking into a microphone, just like I am right now. But sometimes You're not needed to be that person. And what I've learned over the years is that sometimes you got to be the lighting guy. You got to be the person in the back playing the music. You got to be the unseen cog in the machine. And for anybody that gets involved in pro wrestling, be ready to accept that sometimes you're going to be the unseen hero. I'm not saying what I do is heroic, but what I do has added to the show. I know that. I've contributed to the production. In fact, more often than not, that can be more fulfilling than anything you could ever do in front of people, because the people that are counting on you know that they can count on you. And I take great pride in that. This transcends to my radio career as well. You know, there was a time when I first got into the business, and I hear a lot of young jocks and talents still do this to this day. It's kind of like comedians. You start out and you feel that you need to just talk about you and your story, and you and things that you see and things that you think are funny. But the most success, and I've talked about this before on the Wrestling Road Journals, the most success sometimes and the most fulfilling things you can do are when you stop thinking about yourself and think about what you're doing benefiting those around you. Okay, now I'm not saying don't work for yourself, and I'm not saying don't go out and get yours. In fact, if anything, I'm saying the exact opposite. Go out and get what you're owed. Go out and get what you deserve. People say you're not owed anything in life. I disagree with that. I'm not talking money. I'm not even talking respect. I'm talking base functionality here. As long as you are a person living, breathing, contributing, you have purpose. And the second you take purpose away from someone, you take away any reason for them to want to do anything for anyone else. Why am I doing these stories? It's not to just sit here and reflect and reminisce. I'm telling you these stories because, friends, my life has been anything but perfect. My life has been anything but a free ride, an easy ride. I have worked damn hard for everything I've gotten and everything I have lost. But at the end of the day, I can look at myself in the mirror and I can say, hey, I had purpose. I was able to think of something bigger than myself. I was able to contribute. And maybe you listening to this right now are saying to yourself, you know what? There are days that I hate my job. There are days that I hate my life. There's days that I hate everything going on in the world. But as long as you got something that gives you that sense of purpose, even if it's plugging in chords at a wrestling show. And that's a little bit more personal reflection, because this is a road journal. These are thoughts from the last few days, and this is, again, what pro wrestling has done for me. I want to thank, again, my buddy Vern May, the crew at Pure Power Wrestling, especially to Curtis and Kevin for the laughs on the road to the show and for the relatively quiet ride back to Lethbridge the next day. And I want to thank you, as always, for taking time to hang out with me here on the podcast and listen to these stories. I don't know if it connects the way I'm hoping it to, but there always seems to be something interesting and a lesson for me that comes out of every time I do a show, either here in town or up in Calgary with Dungeon or on the road with Danny and CWE or even up in Wetaskiwin for Primetime Wrestling now. If you're listening to this, you're on a promotion, you want to book me to MC or ring announce for you, I ain't hard to find. That's where these stories come from. Next time, I'll try and get more audio from other sources as well. We were damn busy this last couple of days, so I hope you enjoyed the clips as well. Follow at Celebrate Wrestling on Instagram to see photos and videos from this and other stories along the way. Make sure you join us for all our podcasts. Again, middle of the week, you get Andy and Stefan from the UK with Legends and Champions. You get the alternate commentary table, which this past Saturday's episode produced in the ring truck by yours truly, thanks to Mitch and Dimitri. And then I'll be back with you on Sundays, or in some cases Mondays, with McGuire on Wrestling. This Monday will be the upload date for our show because AEW's Revolution is taking place on the Sunday night. So there you have it. Taking enough of your time. This is a lot longer than these usually go, but Thank you for letting me be a part of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Let me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. I be seeing ya.